Welcome back to My View. It may have been a product of the crippled economy, the open border, the violent crime, or the dangerous decline in parents' rights. But one thing's for sure, minority voters came out for Donald Trump in 2024 unlike any other Republican before him. And this president does not take that lightly. He's tapped Lynne Patton to serve as the White House Director of Minority Outreach starting next month. Now, I've known Lynne for years, and it's clear she is passionate about this new opportunity to serve. But before she really hits the ground running, we sat down to talk about why she's the right person for this role and everything she hopes to accomplish for minority communities across the country. Lynne, thank you so much for joining us. You have been around our family well before we ever entered the world of politics. So from your perspective, I would love to hear from you about the Trump family that you knew prior to politics, the Trump family you now know in politics, and especially the man himself, President Trump.
It's been 17 years now. 17 years and counting that I've been either an advisor to your husband and his siblings or to your father-in-law. And it's obviously been the honor of a lifetime. I began working with your husband and running his charity for St. Jude. It starts off with, Lynne, do you think this tie looks good? To Lynne, do you think this property is worth investing in? To Lynne, do you think we should have another child?
Well, you have been such an important person in all of our lives. During the 2016 campaign, you made a video,
yes,
and you talked about a moment that was very impactful in your life. I wonder if you would share that today.
Like millions of Americans, I struggled with substance abuse and addiction. And like most addicts, you convince yourself that you don't have a problem. My weakness or crutch was cocaine. Thankfully, somebody at the Trump organization recognized these patterns and told your husband, who promptly called me into his office one day and said that he knew what was happening and that I was like a sister to him, and that they were going to get me the help that I needed to get through this. And then I believe you were on speakerphone, and then you chimed in and said, we love you, Lynne. You've got this, and we're going to get the help that you need for yourself. Fast forward a couple of years later, of course, when your father-in-law is coming down the escalator and announces that he's running for president, to then be asked by him to join him in D.C. Of course, you serve at the pleasure of the president was also the honor of a lifetime.
What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions about Donald Trump are?
The most paramount question that I get asked still pretty regularly is, how do you as a black female work for a man who is a racist, is a misogynist? And, it's never ceases to amaze me because these are people who have never met him. Loyalty and family is paramount to the Trump organization, the Trump family. Donald Trump doesn't see black and white. I always say that he sees success and failure. And that's just the innate businessman in him.
The attack line from the left continues. I mean, it's with all Republicans, but specifically with Donald Trump, to call him a racist. Why is that their default?
I think it's the default with all their arguments, because I've been called a white supremacist, which is, pretty tough pill to swallow. But yeah, I think that that's just their default argument: Nazi, white supremacist, racist. When you cannot prove your point with facts, you default to insults. This election, more than ever, the media, Democrats, and even Republicans alike recognize that this type of rhetoric was not working anymore, that people were waking up, particularly these minority communities, and saying to themselves, look, America was better with Trump. They were richer with Trump. They were stronger with Trump. They were safer with Trump. And black and brown families were spending $1,000 extra a month under the last administration, just like every other family. So why would they not want change? And that's exactly what they voted for in record numbers.
We have seen between 2016, 2020, and now 2024 elections with Donald Trump that his popularity among minority voters has increased. What do you attribute that to? And I think a lot of people wonder, well, will it hold for the midterm election?
You had record inflation. You had the most porous border in American history. You had rising violent crime. But one of the sleeper issues that really impacted a lot of those communities was the issue of men and women's sports and sort of the indoctrination that they were seeing in their schools. You know, Hispanics, blacks, really at the core are very conservative in that regard. We've always seen support from sort of Cuban Americans, Venezuelan Americans, but to also see that drive forward the vote from non-traditional demographics like Black Americans and Mexican Americans was very, very powerful. Black and brown communities did not like seeing billions of dollars going overseas to the Ukraine when we should be investing that money here in the United States. Why are there homeless veterans on the street instead of in these hotels that they were able to put millions and millions of illegals in? Trump was speaking common sense to the core. These are things that benefit all Americans, not just white Americans or minority Americans, but all Americans across the board.
So your parents are both Democrats. I know your parents very well. They're
Yes,
wonderful people.
they love you.
So how did Lynne Patton end up a Republican, and not just a Republican, but working for multiple presidential campaigns and now in multiple White Houses?
Without question, 9/11 is what changed me from a Democrat to a Republican. Like many Americans after that, you know, it was all about unity and all about common sense safeguards. And, you know, when you start saying that we're profiling or that, you know, this is racist or that this is, you know, not conducive to our values, I started to say, well, maybe these aren't my values anymore. I started to realize that the Republican Party better represents my patriotism and the fact that I wanted to put America first. We want to put Black Americans who were born here first, brown Americans who were born here first. We want to put white Americans who were born here first. And to answer your question, yes, they're Democrats. And, you know, they struggle, I think, with the fact that I am a Republican. I think they've come to peace with because they know all the great things that this president has done for me as a human being. And all the great things that you guys have done for me as a family, to give me this opportunity to say, Lynn, you're worth it, that you're worth saving, that you belong here, again, that you've earned this spot because of all of the effort that you've put in.
Well, you are incoming director of minority outreach for the White House. This is a role you'll start next month. What does that mean? Because is this a new role for the White House?
A deputy assistant to the president for minority outreach is something that obviously I look forward to spearheading. I think when you see him announcing Alice Johnson as the pardon czar, I think when you see him announcing Paula White as the faith-based initiative, you know, inside of the West Wing, it's clear that you're going to see a lot of collaborating going on. I've been taking this downtime to kind of work on a daily basis with Jerron Smith, who was there in the first administration and the architect of criminal justice reform, the most comprehensive criminal justice reform in over 30 years. I look forward to seeing where we can take that to the Second Step Act. So
very exciting.
A very exciting stuff.
Well, Lynne Patton, good luck in the new role. We'll be watching. We'll be following.
Thank you.
And thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.